Story 1. The exhaustion that never goes away no matter how much you sleep. Story 2. The sheer dull emptiness of it. Nothing, and I mean nothing, makes you feel. A sunrise feels like the middle of the night, your favorite food might as well be sand, and you feel like a corpse when you have to get up and do anything. It is like depression scrapes you out of your skin, and whatever is left numbly pretends to be human. Story 3. The way it comforts you. Depression is a difficult feeling, but when left with only your internal thoughts, it often feels like the only conclusive answer, the only mature answer. Every attempt to break out of it is a hurdle, whether the depression is caused by external factors or not. It makes breaking free feel almost impossible. Then, when you finally do, usually with outside help, it feels like you should never have had it. Story 4. Self-loathing, chest pain, crying, masturbation, insomnia, loneliness. Story 5. How hard it is to do even the simplest self-care and self-maintenance tasks. Just the thought of doing them is exhausting. Story 6. Anyone who is not depressed cannot truly understand what it means to be clinically depressed. Hence, all the advice like, just get out more, and go to the gym. Story 7. Convincing yourself you are fine when deep down you are not. Story 8. How helpless you can be, punished for something that is not your fault to begin with. Story 9. Losing hope is like the light at the end of the tunnel disappearing, leaving only endless darkness. Story 10. In this day and age, it is a more validated issue to talk about, but if you talk about it freely and it does not ever get better, then you are basically sabotaging your relationships with honesty. Many people are struggling too, which creates a loop where both people are just interested in the other's problems and giving superficial answers to what they are actually struggling with themselves. Story 11. When you are deep enough in it, you do not even feel anymore. It is just a numb nothing. Story 12. When simply existing feels painful, you feel empty, unable to do anything, detached, and merely being alive feels uneasy. Story 13. I can't speak for anyone other than myself. We all experience things differently. For me, it was the feeling that I deserved to be depressed. I had failed. I wasn't a good son. I wasn't a good person. I deserved to feel the way that I did, and the world would be a better place without me in it. I acknowledged that my family and friends would feel a kind of false regret or guilt if I killed myself in an obvious way, like they should have done more. I didn't want them to feel that, so I tried to kill myself by running mountain passes in the middle of the night. Your subconscious survival instinct really kicks into overdrive when you're driving 220 kilometers per hour into a twisty patch of mountain road and the limiter kicks in. But it is also a feeling beyond anything else I've experienced. Drugs are not what I want. That is the feeling I want. Story 14. If you tell anyone, either they don't understand or they don't care. You are on your own. The biggest mistake of my life was that I told my childhood abuse to my wife. She always used it against me. Story 15. Depression is a liar and makes you believe far-fetched things that are simply not true. Reality becomes distorted beyond measure. And with your senses spinning and emotions suspended, it keeps you in a continuous state of confusion and pain. The lies it tells range from, you are a burden to everybody, to, I bet you would feel a lot better if you were dead, to literal television static noise. Story 16. For me, it feels like time is dragging out and every day that passes feels like a week. Then one day you wake up and realize 3 years have passed and you have nothing to show for it. Story 17. That wall in front of you that does not let you accomplish anything. Story 18. Not noticing that you are depressed and assuming this is your true, awful form. Also, not receiving any support from your family because they also believe this is the real you. Story 19. Not realizing how low you have let yourself go, accepting horrible living conditions and relationships that only take from you, just being okay with any small amount of happiness you can get, even if it means you are living in your own misery, being used by people and thinking it is love, abandoned by those you trusted and thinking, I get it, waking up every day with no purpose and feeling okay about it, because maybe you might feel something enough to feel alive for even just a moment. Story 20. Not being able to get out of bed even though you want to and know you should. Story 21. Sitting with it for years, then finally taking the step to get help, only to end up with a poor therapist. This has happened to many people I know. Story 22. Exhaustion is the worst part of it. I always wonder how much more effective and further I could be in my career if it did not hold me back. I am great at my work, but due to my depression, I need more periods to mentally gather myself so I can be more effective throughout the day. Story 23. Not being able to talk about it because no one will ever understand. Even other people with depression or worse, self-diagnosed individuals have turned it into such a cliché that no matter how perfectly I articulate my issues, it is always seen as me being emotional or wanting drama or to argue. Story 24. Wishing you knew what you would have done in the past in the right way to avoid being miserable and depressed. Story 25. For me, I have intellectualized my experience. I am less depressed and more struggling to accept that this is how we, as a society and as a species, have decided to exist. I am grieving, feeling alone in a world where our future is less important than having plastic packaging on our food, where everyone needs a job and must drive to that job just to get by. However, those jobs and those cars are basically the reason the planet will not be able to sustain our species much longer. The worst part about depression is that I feel entitled to it, as if it is inevitable. I am actually a pretty happy person because I am easily distracted. But I struggle with simple tasks because my mind thinks about all the fundamental flaws in how we go about life while doing them. So, laundry is hard, dishes are hard, vacuuming and sweeping are hard. I lack the motivation to do much other than work, eat, and take care of myself. Story 26. Feeling an obligation to others to stay alive even though you would prefer not to. Story 27. The physical heaviness on your chest that just sits there for no reason and you cannot remove it. Story 28. It's a feeling of always being exhausted and not feeling good enough for anything. It is extremely draining, and many people do not understand that. I would do a lot to get rid of this. Story 29. Knowing how you can improve yourself and understanding that it is in your hands, yet still lacking the will or discipline to make things better. Feeling completely worthless all the time. Story 30. People often do not believe you have it. If they do, there is nothing they can change about it. Everyone is annoyed. Story 31. The lack of understanding from others. The "you are using it as a crutch" accusation really hurts. Story 32. The anger is mostly inward, sometimes outward. There is an overwhelming desire to be alone that manifests as pushing away everyone around me. Story 33. Feeling so alone even when you are in a relationship and have very loving friends and family members. They just will not fully understand, which is fine, but it is very lonely. Story 34. Even if you supposedly have it all, if something bad happened and the Grim Reaper was calling your number, you would not fight it. Story 35. It fights against you doing the things that would make you feel better and more fulfilled. Story 36. Everyone, including medical professionals, advises you to go out for walks and spend time with friends. However, depression can make this difficult. Story 37. One of the worst aspects of depression is the pervasive sense of hopelessness and helplessness it can create. This feeling can make it incredibly difficult for individuals to see a way out of their situation, leading to a cycle of negative thoughts and emotions. Story 38. Reading through this thread and realizing how depressed I really am. Yikes. Story 39. Every small task is exhausting to accomplish. Even raising one arm to brush your teeth is tiring. Story 40. Just not feeling anything. I would not wish it on my worst enemy. Story 41. When therapy feels like a joke, you hold your feelings inside because expressing them to others and asking for help is often overwhelming and exhausting for everyone involved, especially family and a spouse. It is incredibly lonely and usually makes things worse due to guilt and self-gaslighting. Story 42. I cannot get out of bed, and my family thinks I am lazy and dependent. I have insomnia and binge eating. Story 43. The moment when you want to move but cannot, and all your emotions begin to hurt. Story 44. Forgetting that there were good times in the past and that there will be more in the future. Story 45. That people do not believe you and think you are lazy, seeking attention, crazy, asocial, and so on. Story 46. Planning too far in the future scares me. This is difficult because as an adult, future planning becomes necessary over time. Story 47. Knowing that you are not special for having it, and that is how you rationalize not talking to anyone about it. Story 48. Not knowing everyone does not feel like you do. It makes it hard to know when you need to seek help. Story 49. All your previous enthusiasm for interests and hobbies slowly drains away over time, leaving you with no enjoyment for anything. Story 50. Probably the inability to feel good things. Always feeling down and empty. Nothing makes you happy, and you can't enjoy anything because everything feels bad. 0 out of 10 cannot recommend. Story 51. The doubt. Questioning if it's real. Thinking you could be a better person if you just tried harder but not having the energy to try or even really caring enough to try. Thinking there are probably people worse off than you, so maybe you are overusing the term depression and are just sad. Maybe you should ignore the sad thoughts and stop wasting your therapist's time because nothing is really wrong with you. Maybe your family and friends, if you have any left, are tired of hearing about it, so find something else to talk about instead of focusing on this thing in your head that is probably not real anyway. Maybe this is something you can pull yourself out of with medication, therapy, transcranial magnetic stimulation, or electroconvulsive therapy. But also, maybe this is just who you are, so you should get used to it, make the most of it, and act happier around people because maybe this is your baseline and it will never get any better. Story 52. God. I am so sick of being depressed. Over 7 years straight now. I am never going to be okay. It sucks. I have children, and even though they are basically grown now, I cannot leave them. Story 53. Not being able to concentrate on anything for very long is difficult. I love reading, but I cannot focus long enough to read even a chapter. I love film and have a degree in it, but I cannot focus enough to watch one since the death of a loved one 5 years ago and my best friend died a couple of months ago. So, I just put YouTube on for background noise while I lie in bed. Story 54. Takes away your time. Before you realize it, it has been a year, then 5, then 10. When you look back, you cannot remember much from those years. Story 55. The worst thing for me is being in an amazing situation with great friends and family, everyone having a great time, nothing bad happening, and having to fake a smile to my children when on the other side of that is a tattered mess of pain, self-loathing, and despair. Story 56. It can become normal for those affected. Takes a lot for things to feel good deep down inside. Story 57. Knowing you have it will always have it and cannot change anything about the fact that you have it. Story 58. Often, the side effects of the medications you have to take can be challenging. I have been on medications for depression for a while. However, it is usually the side effects, such as heartburn, that become a significant discomfort, mainly because I am not allowed to eat any food before taking the medication. Story 59. Not having any interest in anything anymore, especially things you used to enjoy doing. Story 60. You can have the perfect day, and one little thought can send you into a downward spiral. Story 61. Isolating myself. I'm so incredibly lonely and feel like I'm missing out on so much. Even though I feel like this, I'm too anxious and depressed to go out and do things. Such a battle. I know what I want and I know how to get it, but I just can't push myself out sometimes. The feeling of guilt surrounding this is awful. Everything is. Scary and hard. Even going to work every day at a place I've worked at for 9 years somehow feels frightening every single time. Everything feels like such a chore, like showering or washing dishes. It's the ruminating and dread about doing common tasks when all my brain wants me to do is sit around and waste away. But my heart knows it's wrong. Story 62. The cycle of wanting to do activities recommended to improve depression but having no motivation to do them. Story 63. The lasting consequences of mental health issues are significant. If you get your mental health in order, that is great. However, you then have to address all those years of neglecting yourself, while also trying to avoid becoming depressed again. It is a vicious cycle. Story 64. When you have a really good few days or a week and you feel like you are turning a corner, then the next thing you know, it is just gone. It might be around the same people or in the same place, but it is like the depression just remembered its place in your existence. Story 65. Reading everyone's answers is breaking my heart. My partner struggles with depression. What are some things that have helped you break out of it? Or what are things that have felt comforting to you during an episode? Story 66. Not being able to understand where it is coming from or why is frustrating when you just feel low. Story 67. You know you need to change but do not have the energy to do anything about it. Story 68. The complete indifference I feel. I do not want anything. No food sounds good. No particular fuzzy sweater for comfort. I do not care what is on the television or if it is on at all. No preference for what music plays, where my family goes, or what activities to do. I have learned that my life is not structured to allow me to rest as much as my brain and body need at my lowest. I just get things done and participate in life until it is a reasonable hour to finally go to bed. Story 69. Knowing that how you are feeling is not you. Remembering who you were before and missing yourself but not being able to go back to normal. Story 70. Deciding that ending your life is better than any alternative. Story 71. It probably makes me think about suicide daily without fail. The only reason I am still here is that I am too scared to do it with the methods available to me. It is a good thing I do not own a gun. Story 72. Feeling nothing. People often think depression is a constant feeling of sadness, but it is more like an inability to feel anything. You do not enjoy anything, and you do not really want to do anything because it all feels like work with no payoff. It is just an empty, blank numbness. So you do things that distract you from it, such as sleep, self-stimulation, and watching the same movie repeatedly. Story 73. The way so many people make light of what we are dealing with is troubling. It is not simple for us to just one day decide to be depressed or not. I think the term depression has been overused, so people do not understand the gravity of my mental health state. I believe most clinically depressed people try their best to overcome it. It is just not that simple. Otherwise, there would not be so many of us going through it. Another thing is that when I happen to find any amount of joy in something, it does not mean the depression is gone. It is a flicker, maybe some hope, maybe I tricked myself. But no matter what, it does not just leave you in an instant. Story 74. Anhedonia. Forever. Literally unable to feel happiness or pleasure. Most people experience this in short bouts, such as after a family member dies or they lose their job. But I am treatment resistant and cannot remember the last time I felt happy or actually enjoyed something. Art, video games, going out in nature, all of it feels like a job. I hate something I have to do because the alternative is rotting in bed, which I know I should not do. It is a constant feeling of misery, self-loathing, and fear of the future with no breaks. It is hard to explain to friends I played video games with as a teenager that now video games make me just as tired as chores because now they are a chore. Story 75. The lack of energy, constant fatigue, and dark thoughts of self-harm or suicide. Story 76. Not being able to be present, and society thinking it is a choice. Story 77. Lonely in a crowd of friends, feeling guilty that you may bring the mood down. Story 78. The people around you do not understand or are unable to save you. Story 79. That you are unable to see color in life, even if you know it was there in the first place. Story 80. Watching as happiness slips through your fingers like sand. The thing you loved yesterday no longer matters to you. Your favorite thing in the world is as lifeless as a cement wall. Story 81. Knowing that dying would end the pain, but also knowing I should not wish to be dead. Story 82. Always feeling tired and numb. Depression is not constant sadness. It is constant emptiness. Story 83. Knowing that you are depressed, in a bad spot, and need help but lack the willpower or energy to do anything about it. Then, if you have a good day and muster what is needed to seek help, you have to jump through hoops and wait weeks for the wrong help, if any at all. Unless you are ready to harm yourself at that moment, all you get is basically a middle finger. Hi, yes, I need counseling or therapy. Oh, I need a referral from my primary care manager. No, I understand I can see mental health and mental retardation services as a walk-in, but I cannot afford to take the day off to wait 6 hours for some state employee who does not care to send me to A doctor who also does not care and will likely just prescribe medication rather than help me figure out the root of my problems and how to deal with my poor coping mechanisms. Then I have to see a string of therapists who know less about mental health than I do and are crazier than I am. Story 84. The constant general numbness to everything. It is not that depression is a constant state of deep unhappiness. It is the apathy for everything. Nothing tastes as it once did. The moments of joy that do come are very quickly punctuated by the ever-present nothing. Story 85. You do not always realize it as a man because there is no one to talk to. Story 86. The lack of desire to die and the lack of desire to live. Story 87. The way it steals joy from you. One day you wake up and everything you love in life makes you feel nothing. It tricks you into thinking you are not depressed. You are seeing the world objectively, and everything is awful. Story 88. Feeling like life is worthless. Living life on autopilot. Story 89. Knowing you have a great life and many things to be thankful for, but your brain is always finding ways to twist it and make you think that it is all miserable. You walk around feeling a strange sense of dread and doom most of the time. Consumes you. It changes your appetite and eating habits. You gain and lose weight. It drains you of any energy, so no matter how much you try to sleep it away, it is always lingering. I lost my mother over 3 months ago. She was my go-to person when my depression would rear its ugly head. It has been worse lately, but I am holding out hope for a more optimistic future. I struggle to be optimistic anymore. Story 90. Life slips away like sand through your fingers, but you get older and hurt for no reason. You can barely remember what you ate or if you took your medicine, but you blink and months have passed. Story 91. You notice you tend to forget things, even small details that you used to be good at. You just realized it has started to feel strange. Story 92. You keep telling yourself I have things to do, but you are not able to get up and do them. You tell yourself you are okay, but you are falling to pieces inside. Story 93. For me, the loneliness is probably unbearable to the point of physical pain, even though I am not truly alone. I have great friends and family but still feel this way, and I cannot escape it. Story 94. Literally enjoying nothing at all, and people do not understand why I do not like being included. Story 95. The emptiness. The inability to fix the spiral. Pretty soon, your house is a mess. Doing everyday tasks such as cooking, cleaning, or even showering becomes a chore. The only thing you want to do is sleep because at least while you are asleep, you can dream about other things if you even still dream at all. You get even more depressed at the mess around you, not just the physical mess but the inability to regulate your emotions, and then you just spiral deeper and deeper. Depression robs you of days, months, and even years. I haven't been able to fix it, and some people never recover. One suicide occurs every 11 minutes. And that is a sobering statistic. It's been 9 years since my last attempt, but I have gotten help and have improved. That doesn't mean it goes away. I fight a battle every day. Story 96. Knowing what you love, your passions, but having zero passion for it anymore is like being a child in timeout, watching everyone else have fun outside. Story 97. Not wanting to die but having those thoughts in my head all the time. Story 98. You can suffer from it even if you are well off, loved, and supported. Can still prevail. Story 99. I do not know if it was the worst, but the anhedonia. You have a completely free day ahead of you. You have a shelf full of books, a console or personal computer full of games, a television full of shows and movies, a wall of beautiful guitars to play, a sunny day outside, and a park within walking distance. And yet, you do not want to do anything. Nothing is actually enjoyable. You try to do something, and it is like it has been sapped of joy. All you can do is lie there and do nothing. Story 100. How it can turn everything that was ever important into ash. What was enjoyable becomes a pointless, listless chore. But you can still remember that once upon a time you could feel such things as joy, pride, or satisfaction. Story 101. That heavy feeling in your chest makes it hard to move, let alone get out of bed. Story 102. Weirdly getting used to it, until you start to get better, You do not realize how much it permeates every part of your life. You are not lacking happiness so much as you are pressed down by hopelessness and despair. It is exhausting. I still get cycles of depression, and when I feel it coming on, I get so angry and annoyed before all of that is basically scooped out. I have to move through jello for weeks. It is an oppressive nothingness, and it feels like you are trapped within it. Story 103. Everyone says to seek help. When I am in a dark place, seeking help is impossible. I am lucky if my feet touch the floor when I wake up. The only person who truly knows how I feel is me. Story 104. Everything just seems so big. Not the right word. Insurmountable. Little things seem large. Major things seem overwhelming. Significant tasks just freeze your mind. Taking a shower feels like a huge endeavor. You have no energy and no will. Story 105. Never be certain whether you are right to feel how you feel about things or if it is just tinged by depression. You always feel ungrateful yet underserved at the same time. You are alive, what a gift, but it is hard not to focus on the aspects that do not feel like a gift. To sum all that up and answer your question, the worst part about depression is that you are like a dog chasing its tail. But what happens when you catch your tail and feel no difference? What if you got everything you ever wanted and still found a way to be depressed about something, and nothing will ever satisfy that feeling? That is the worst part. Story 106. It is always there. No matter the medication, no matter the therapy, no matter your friends, it is still there. The medication numbs it a bit, the therapy always seems pointless, and your friends do not understand. It just never goes away, you just get used to it. Story 107. Explaining to people, I feel satisfaction sometimes, but happiness never lasts more than a few seconds and is a rare occurrence. The sea is wide and gray. Story 108. For me, it is the lack of emotions other than the negative ones. There is no joy or happiness, no contentedness or empathy, no love or desire. It is all stolen away even though you know they are there somewhere. You just exist, hating yourself. Story 109. Thinking you are better, going months to years happily and healthily, then watching your mental health spiral back to square one and being unable to stop it. Story 110. Wanting to achieve much more in life but not having the motivation to do more than dream about it, because a small voice in your mind says you are not worth it. Story 111. It is waiting for the day, week, month, or year to end, as if you are waiting for something. But then there is nothing, so you wait for the next day, week, month, or year to end, only to find nothing again. Story 112. The medical industry convinces us there is nothing to do about it besides take pills, when the reality is very different. Story 113. The guilt that comes with it. Guilt for being a burden, guilt for being unpleasant to be around, and the guilt for knowing that in most cases you still have it better than a lot of people in the world. I will also add that when I was at my worst, I would wake up and for 5 to 10 seconds I would feel normal, and then suddenly it all would come rushing back, usually leaving me just staring at the ceiling, trying to summon the strength to get through another difficult day. Story 114. There is no blood. I have known many people who firmly believe nothing is wrong with you if there is no blood. Story 115. For me, it's the fact that you know what you're feeling isn't real. You're aware that your brain is broken. You have an academic, logical understanding that this is a chemical imbalance, that there's a disconnect between external stimulus and the appropriate emotional response, and that the calls are coming from inside the house situation. You are more than aware of what is happening, and that it does not make sense. But that does not do anything to make it stop. It does not help. Understanding the problem and its nature provides you exactly zero tools or insight on how to fix anything, so you spiral into a cycle of feeling even worse. Story 116. Fun things are not enjoyable when you cannot overcome mental exhaustion. You know you should be enjoying life, but your mind feels numb. You feel out of your body, as if you are watching everyone else move through life while you remain stagnant and alone. Story 117. For me, it is the loss of memory and interest in things you are passionate about. Things become a blur. Then, the next thing you know, you have not worked on your passion in days, weeks, or months. Now you wonder where the time went, and you cannot seem to recollect what you did with it because you were deeply lost in your thoughts. Aggressively and intentionally fighting against depression has helped a great deal. Story 118. I may appear lazy to people, but I really just have no energy to do anything. Story 119. How it kills motivation, especially creative ideas. I used to write music and I still have some ideas, but now I just do not have the energy to make the effort. Story 120. Just feeling anxious and sad all the time, even when you want to be happy. Story 121. Having too many unfinished tasks to do in the world and having no ambition or motivation to complete them. Story 122. I think about the vicious circle. The inability to do anything because one's mind is spiraling, the inability to distract oneself, and then either turning to alcohol or other drugs. This affects sleep, and then the cycle repeats the next day. One of the most disturbing things I have to deal with is feeling that I can only cope with paying bills and important tasks if I have had a drink. That really scares me, but it has been going on for years. Story 123. The worst thing is that it never really goes away. You are just stuck with it. Story 124. The fact that it has become a contest. The last few times I felt comfortable enough with somebody to open up and say that I have been feeling depressed and having a hard time, they just start sharing everything that is going on with them. It does not feel like they are just trying to relate. It feels like they are saying, "Oh, you think you have problems?" Story 125. That it saps your desire for connection with others, which is ironically the antidote to depression. Story 126. Being aware of it and having difficulty caring enough to take action. Story 127. Just the lack of joy from things that you knew you enjoyed before. Also, trying to put on a smiling face so you do not bring everyone else down. Story 128. Constantly being tired no matter what I do. The constant fatigue really wears on you. Story 129. The amount of effort and willpower it takes to keep going, to keep getting up day after day, doing all the normal everyday things, even though all you really want is the sweet release of oblivion. To those going through this, I have been fighting for over 20 years very seriously in the last 5, and I promise it does get better. It took therapy to undo trauma and learn healthy coping skills, many medications and medication combinations, ketamine, transcranial magnetic stimulation treatments, and more. But in the end, I am here for my wife and son still, and it is not such a struggle. Things can get better. Story 130. All the opportunities it has taken from my life. Knowing that I could have achieved so much more if I did not have to deal with the difficulties of both depression and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I could have had much more self-worth and financial security if not for my mental health issues. Instead, I feel like my life is a monument to wasted potential. Like I am always trying to pick up the shattered pieces of my hopes, dreams, and plans that could have been but never will be. I live in a manufactured home that is falling apart and drive old cars. I have no savings and cannot keep steady work. I try my best, but I do not feel like a good parent. It is difficult to learn to be content with doing what I am able to do when I know what could have been. It is hard to come to terms with being one of the young people at high school graduation that everyone said has potential and was going places, only to end up trying my best and then watching everything, metaphorically, burn to the ground around me. Story 131. Depression is anger without enthusiasm. Depression and anxiety mean not having a life. It means your mind keeps reminding you of all the bad things in your life, all your embarrassing moments. It makes you think you are worthless, that no one takes you seriously. It means having no confidence. It means feeling like your head is unraveling, like there is always impending doom just around the corner. It means missing out on things people take for granted. Working, dating, social situations, and even going shopping. It means counseling, cognitive behavioral therapy, and trying different medications that sometimes make you worse and feel suicidal. It means finding the right medication, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, a drug that basically dials down the world around you, makes your emotions disappear, and hours blend into days and weeks blend into months. Before you know it, 10 years have gone by. One of the worst parts of depression is people trivializing the condition. People telling you to get a grip, man up, or stop moping around. Story 132. Remembering who I used to be and wondering why it is so hard to just be that person again. Story 133. Feeling helpless and hopeless is a deep feeling of anguish that is hard to describe. Story 134. It has already been said, but being tired all the time is very difficult. People do not even understand that when I say I am tired, I do not mean I am a little sleepy. I mean my skeleton feels like it is made of lead, and I have a dense fog in my brain that will not go away. Story 135. Waking up in the morning and not having the strength to face the day. Story 136. Feeling bored with yourself and everything around you, just wanting to disappear but not being able to, so you continue to exist. Story 137. How relentless it is when it grabs hold of you. Almost everybody will probably end up depressed at some point in their lives, whether from the loss of a loved one or through a crisis. The feelings of sadness, despair, or mourning are something almost everyone can relate to, which is why it is so easy to portray in most forms of media, where they are often romanticized through some artistic prism. Chronic depression is just as insidious and overwhelming, and it is always somewhere around the corner, like a hound on your trail stalking you, waiting for the opportunity to strike a devastating blow when you let down your guard. There is no artistic beauty in the hopelessness of having made it through another round with the beast only to be left bruised and wondering if you are strong or weak for having this fight in the first place. No words, photograph, or film can paint an attractive portrait of such a hidden wound. Photography, the art of painting with light, cannot get a shot since there is no light down at the bottom of that hole. No novel or textbook can prepare you for such a ruthless opponent. One who knows all your past mistakes, all your weaknesses and insecurities, and will often go for the jugular. The closest I have seen it recently acted convincingly was Manchester by the Sea. Casey Affleck was nothing short of great there. Watch at your own peril. I would not wish this on my worst enemy, and I sincerely hope you are reading these comments to satisfy your curiosity and not because you need answers. If the latter is you, my heart goes out to you. I feel your pain. You are not alone. You also deserve to be happy. I hope you find the peace you need. Hold on. Story 138. The desire to take action and the inability to actually do it. Story 139. The fact that many people think it is sadness is not understood. Story 140. Not being the best version of yourself and everything that follows with it. Story 141. Always feeling awful, exhausted, tired, drained, empty, void. There are a million ways to say you always feel terrible. What little feels good is incredibly short-lived, and you usually have that realization lurking in your head all the time, making what little good there is left in life seem even less. Nothing makes it go away for more than a couple of days. People never understand. I can feel happy for a couple of hours at a time, but not much more. You are never energized and always tired, no matter how much sleep you get. Food is uninteresting, and I tend to lose weight when I get into my rut. What little I do eat is incredibly bad for me. Substance abuse usually becomes a factor eventually. It pushes people to awful things after a while of feeling no emotion, and eventually just end up numb and sociopathic, having no remorse when you do something you should not, whether you meant to or not. It is not good. Story 142. The constant mental exhaustion drags you down. Story 143. Depression, for me anyway, seems to keep you in a paralyzed state that feeds itself. It removes motivation to change anything that keeps you stuck. For anyone struggling, I know it is real. Try taking baby steps and celebrate even the smallest wins. Story 144. Many people, particularly older generations and certain cultures, do not believe depression is a legitimate disorder. Most of the time, they see a depressed person and tell them to man up, or it's all in your head or something similar. Story 145. Lack of self-development in any aspect of your life is something you should value the most. Story 146. You cannot see that the difficult times will pass. They are too all-consuming. Story 147. Not knowing what to do next. Although you have all the answers from your time when you are not depressed, it is as if your brain has erased those memories and you do not know what normal, mundane thing to do next. Get a meal, take a bath, watch your favorite show, listen to some music, do your laundry. All of these things bring a normal level of joy in a non-depressed state of mind, and I do them automatically. In depression, it is as if I have forgotten how doing them feels. Therefore, I see no reason to get up and do anything. Story 148. Sounding like you are making things up when you are talking about it will never make sense to someone not going through it. Story 149. The overwhelming emptiness of it all, soul-crushing apathy. Story 150. Depression makes it feel like the hardest thing to do in this life is to live in it, no matter how much I yearn for life. Story 151. It makes you think nothing is worth it, draining your happiness in life, convincing you that the logical and only truth is that your life is meaningless. In reality, it is the complete opposite. Story 152. The worst thing about depression is when your mood is low, you lack the motivation to seek help, and when your mood improves, you convince yourself that you do not need it. Story 153. That is a vicious cycle. You have no motivation to do anything but sit on the couch. Then you feel more depressed because all you did was sit on the couch all day. You wake up early and can't get back to sleep. So you feel more depressed because you could have slept in, but you did not. You get to sleep in late. So you feel more depressed because instead of getting up and doing something productive, you wasted the entire morning in bed. Your friends call and invite you out to dinner. You say no and make up an excuse. So you feel more depressed because you could have gone out and had a good time, but you did not. Your friends call and invite you to dinner and you say yes. The whole time you are out, all you can think about is how long it will be before you can go home. So you feel more depressed because you believe you should be able to enjoy going out with your friends like a normal person. And so on. Story 154. I remember things less. I feel like my generalized depression over the course of my life has robbed me of experiences twice. Once in the moment and again in memory. Story 155. People ask, how can you be depressed if you were smiling? Honestly, it is driving me mad sometimes. Story 156. When you have something to look forward to but feel no motivation to feel excitement. Story 157. The apathy. It is so hard to do anything when you just do not care. Story 158. It never truly goes away. It will always be there in the back of your mind. Story 159. Missing out on everything, relationships, friendships, careers, things that are only a conversation or an email away becomes impossible. Story 160. How long it lingers and how hard it is to get rid of. Sertraline helps me feel okay, but I am not happy or anything. I am just here still feeling depressed. Story 161. Exhaustively agonizing over the fact that I do not even know what normal is anymore or if I will ever actually feel it again. Every day seems to be the same with only added difficulties to the equation and fewer bright spots as I move along. Story 162. Ruining relationships because of your desire for isolation. Story 163. From observing it in others, hopelessness, a sense of being stuck, and an inability to function regardless of desire. Story 164. You never know when the waves are coming, how big they will be, or how long they will last. Story 165. The exhaustion of trying to remain positive. The ups and downs, the spiraling pain of hurtful thoughts. I am so tired. I am constantly encouraging myself for continuing on. I hope one day soon I will just be okay. Story 166. Knowing that you just need to put it down and you will be all right, but somehow you have no control over your grip. Story 167. How it's a feedback loop. Depression causes more depression. Story 168. The exhaustion, regardless of the circumstances, and the dullness of everything. Story 169. Waking up after self-harm with medication, realizing you have permanently damaged your mind because of an impulse. Story 170. The fact that you cannot think of a single thing to do, place to go, or people to see that would make you happy. Story 171. When everything and nothing is wrong. I am depressed about everything, but it is nothing specific. Story 172. The fear that even on good days, weeks, or months, it is bound to come back. Story 173. When it goes away and you realize how much time you have lost. Story 174. It is a tie for me between the complete inability to function and the guilt over not being able to function. Story 175. You just do not want to do anything. Not read the books you liked, not watch movies you used to enjoy, not even cook the food you used to love. Everything seems pointless, and you ask yourself daily, why should I do anything if it does not give me anything? Story 176. The worst part of depression is when it saps you of all hope. With no hope, there is no expectation that things will change or improve. Even if you could make an effort to do better, you do not, because there is no hope that effort will pay off. Story 177. The feeling of utter despair is hard to describe if you have not experienced it. Story 178. The lack of energy is a common issue. It does not matter if you sleep a full 8 hours, eat the right amount of food throughout the day, or have your cup of coffee. You simply do not have energy. Story 179. People expect you to be fine unless they see the classic dirty and disheveled-looking person. I can look great and appear to be functioning fine when I am dying on the inside. I am a functional depressive person. Story 180. Not being able to get out of it. Or once you do get out, when you get back in, it feels even worse. Story 181. Sometimes you open your eyes again, and 3, 5, or 10 years have passed while you have been stuck in a loop. Therapy and medication are the difference between fixing it in 2 years or 15. Story 182. Doubting the seriousness of the situation. I spent too much time stressing, wondering if my depression was serious enough to seek help. Story 183. I have no energy left to do projects around the house. Story 184. What are you depressed about? It is so infuriating. I already feel guilty that I have no logical reason to feel this way. The only answer is everything. Story 185. Destroying your relationships and struggling to make new ones. So alone and tired. Story 186. I have loved naps since being a teenager, but as an adult, after going through divorce, post-traumatic stress disorder, and depression, all I want to do is sleep. I go to bed at 9:30 p.m. If I am off the next day, I sleep until 11 or 12, but I still wake up exhausted. Like others have said, the exhausted feeling never goes away. I am tired even when things are great. Story 187. When trying to overcome depression, I have to fight against its very symptoms. I need to go outside, be social, exercise, and so on. I do not want to do any of that, but I have to. It is a never-ending battle. Story 188. The battle to constantly keep thoughts of suicide out of your mind. Story 189. Knowing you have the potential but not being able to use it properly. Story 190. It makes you want to do things that make the disease worse, like stay home and not get out of bed. Story 191. Not being able to see past it, not knowing if it will ever go away, and feeling like it will not. Story 192. Constantly yearning to sleep, and then sleeping for 16 to 18 hours when I am off work. Story 193. Just because you have a good day does not mean it is gone away. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.